meeting to order. Paramount Planning Commission, May 7, 2025. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call of members, please.
Commissioner Esparza?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yep.
Commissioner Moody? Vice Chair Timmons? Chair Weisenberger?
Here. I'd like to make a motion to excuse Commissioner Moody. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Esparza?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Timmons? Chair Weisenberger?
Yes. Okay, agenda item number 1. Approval of minutes from our joint meeting with Paramount City Council on March 25th, 2025. Need a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Esparza?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Timmons? Chair Weisenberger?
Yes. Agenda item number 2, approval of minutes from our last regular meeting of the Planning Commission, April 2nd, 2025. Need a motion to approve?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Esparza?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Timmons? Chair Weisenberger?
Yes. Okay, we have any public comments tonight?
No public comments submitted.
Okay, very good. Then let's move to agenda item number 3 under new business. This is zoning ordinance text amendment number 35. This is a recommendation for the City Council of the City of Paramount to approve zoning ordinance text amendment number 35, amending section 1704010, the definition section, and repealing and replacing chapter 17-112 of the Title 17 of the Paramount Municipal Code in its entirety to establish revised regulations for art in publicly accessible places on private property in public places in the City of Paramount. This project is exempt from the California Environmental Act, CEQA, pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15016B3, which is the general rule that CEQA applies only to projects which have the potential for causing significant effect on the environment. Okay, do we have a staff report?
Yes. So thank you, Chair Weisenberger. As you know, Paramount is a leader in this area for public art. For years, we've kind of been ahead of the game, you could say. So other cities are kind of playing catch up. Like you can see, name names: Bellflower, Norwalk. They're starting to install some sculptures and other types of art. Our history goes back to the 1980s, when we during the time of development, kind of a surge of development. Developers were donating works of art, and that led to a fee in the 1990s, and ultimately an ordinance putting this all into our code, actually not too long ago, a few years ago. So this is an opportunity for us to continue with that leadership and modernize regulations, and we're going to be kind of moving a few things around. Management analyst Sol Bejarano will be giving the presentation and kind of going over what I kind of touched on. She'll get into it in more detail. And this will also be accompanied later this evening by, she'll also give a presentation for the Economic Development Board regarding the public art master plan that's kind of driving the this change to the ordinance. And that presentation will have lots of pretty pictures and it all come together. So part 1 of 2, and go ahead, Ms. Bejarano.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Chair Weisenberger and members of the Planning Commission. The zoning ordinance text amendment number 35, as John mentioned, is in direct response to the proposed public art master plan that will be presented to the City Council later this month. In 1993, for background, the City Council adopted Resolution number 93036, which established the mechanism of collecting a public art fee, which is equal to 1% of the total valuation and applies to new development when the total valuation is greater than $100,000, with the exception of single-family residential developments of 4 units or less. The fees are collected when a building permit is issued. Prior to this, as John mentioned earlier, some of the earlier art pieces acquired were either donated to the city by private developers or purchased by the city using other funding sources. This resolution limits the use of public art funds strictly for the acquisition and maintenance of art. In 2020, the City Council adopted Ordinance Number 1131, formalizing the public art requirements for private development within Paramount. This included expanding a way in which public art funds can be used and now includes cultural activities and events, student art competitions, and public art galleries. At the same time, Chapter 17.112, Art in Public Places, was formally introduced and became part of the city's municipal code. In November of 2023, the City Council approved a professional service agreement with Gale M. Associates to develop the city's first public art master plan. You may recall that the consultants gave a presentation to the Development Review Board seeking input as part of the community engagement and public participation process last year. The public art master plan is informed by the responses received during this period and makes recommendations based on those responses. The plan is complete and warrants the zoning ordinance text amendment to align itself with the recommendations found in the plan. In summary, the changes include adding new definitions and revising a handful of terms provided in order to provide consistency with some of the words found in the body of the public art master plan. I've highlighted a few of the definitions here. So for example, Paramount Annual Work Plan is now defined as an annual work plan presented to the City Council that identifies new projects to be initiated within a fiscal year and provides a status report on current and completed projects. The annual work plan serves to inform city policymakers, staff, and the public about arts and cultural activities and opportunities available. Placemaking, for example, is now defined as a multifaceted approach, generally including arts and cultural installations, performances, and activities to the planning, design, and management of public spaces that improves the quality of life and is documented by recordings, essays, or a combination of media. A Public Art Advisory Committee is defined as the City of Paramount committee that advises the City Council on public art policies, procedures, and expenditures from the Public Art Fund and Public Art Program. The Public Art Program is defined as the city program within the planning department that is responsible for the administration of public art and cultural activities and events, including the acquisition, commission, design, installation, production, presentation, performance, and maintenance of public art for the cultural benefit of the city, its residents, and its visitors, celebrating and illustrating the broad range of cultural expression practiced in the Paramount community that is funded by the Public Art Fund. However, the most notable change is a recommendation to establish a Public Art Advisory Committee. This means that the Development Review Board Committee will no longer review or consider proposals for public art on private developments. The responsibility will be a twofold process, in that the newly established Public Art Advisory Committee will review and make recommendation to the City Council for any newly proposed public art, whether it be on private or public property, and the City Council will have the final say on what gets approved or denied. Additionally, the in lieu contribution requirement has been revised. This isn't a new fee for clarification, but rather an opportunity to clarify the fee contribution requirement. So for reference, the term in lieu means instead of. So for instance, when a developer has a project with a valuation greater than $100,000, they are required to include an art piece valued at 1% of the total project valuation. And they have to install it within the project site. They have an option of, instead of doing that, they can present cash value or 1% in cash that gets deposited into the public art fund. So what this revision does is clarifies the fact that in the event that they choose to install the art piece and the value of that art piece is less than 1%, we get to capture the remaining balance. So let's say that the art piece comes out to $150,000, but they should have paid $200,000. We get to capture the difference, the $50,000, and it goes into the public art fund. The revisions also include defining the use of public art funds, and let me see. This includes 20% to be used for all necessary and reasonable administrative costs in connection with public art program supplies and materials, costs for insurance, identification plaques, and lastly, it designates the role and responsibilities of the City Council, which will be the deciding body when it comes to the installation of public art on both private and public property. And this concludes my presentation. It is recommended that Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission Resolution number PC 25014, recommending that the City Council adopt an ordinance approving zoning ordinance text amendment number 35. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, do we know, out of curiosity, since 1993, how much has been collected for this fund?
Well, I can tell you right now, the balance is a little over 500,000.
Over 5.
And we use the funding throughout the year as currently as part of our Paramount Payments projects to pay for the commissioning of mural boxes, the art installation on the, to make the, what are they, the Myers box, utility boxes that we see out on the street. It pays for murals. It pays, recently paid for the newest art piece out here in front of Civic Center, the Armed Forces, the kneeling soldier in front of the flag with the boots.
That mural, for say, on Garfield over the 105 freeway, is that, with those funds we have been used to make that?
It's been a combination. I believe that was funded through that Neighborhood Preservation Fund, which is called Action. So kind of a combination.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So, if a person wants to donate some type of artwork, like a sculpture or something, to the city, then that person needs to pay we need to find out what the value of the piece of art is worth, and then the person donating it has to pay a fee?
Well, if the person is donating just to donate the artwork without it being tied to a private development happening in the city, we'll follow our policies and procedures, guidelines for donations with this new ordinance. And they'll be able to do so without us instilling a cap on the dollar value amount. The only time that we collect the remaining balance and where that percentage is captured is when they're constructing a private development here in the city. And that the valuation of that piece of artwork has to be equal to 1% of the total project valuation.
So, well, I'm still about the donation part.
Mhm.
So, if Ernie here wanted to donate a nice statue, you know, then let's say it's worth $100,000. Ernie's got a lot of money.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, would he have to pay a fee?
No fee.
Okay.
As long as he's just donating out of the goodwill of his
Yeah.
own reconnaissance and
Yeah.
that.
Like in our area, we have the horses, right?
Mhm.
They put, and the city put those in there. We have two.
Mhm.
So if we wanted something different, donate. Okay, so we
Yep.
we come into this plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So for this new committee, I guess it's called PAC now, Public Art Advisory Committee or
Mhm.
Commission, whatever it's going to be. That's not under planning. That's under city council.
Correct. That's going to be a new committee appointed by the city council, appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council.
And I have another question. So when say for instance a building is being constructed, do they have to have a separate permit, or is it going to be required to have a permit for whatever artwork that they're going to do?
It depends on the type of artwork. So, for example, a sculpture would require plans to be engineered and submitted into plan check, and a permit would be issued to install it. If it's a mural of some sort, or a different type of artwork, depending on what it is, it may not require a permit.
And one more, where it says new and private development, that does not mean residential properties. That means like businesses.
It means all properties within Paramount.
So the city council would regulate how. I don't think that my neighbors would want me to put a big structure in my front yard. So they'll be regulating, what colors they can have, how tall or how short, or, how would they decide?
We're going to have a list of policies and procedures that we've drafted in conjunction with the assistance of the consultant, and that those policies and procedures will be presented to the newly established Public Art Advisory Committee. They'll decide whether or not that's going to be approved, and then those procedures and policies and guidelines will be used in the selection of reviewing any new art pieces installed or proposed artwork. And then they'll make their recommendation to the city council.
So just one more question, just so that I'm clear. Well, I think I'm clear, but just an idea. Say, for instance, we have a lot of, little pockets of housing tracts.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for instance, neighbors want to get together and at maybe the corner of the entrance to the housing tract, they would be able to propose something if they wanted to do.
Yes, and actually I will be highlighting that idea in the following presentation when I present a sneak preview of the Public Art Master Plan to you guys.
Oh, okay, like in our area, yeah.
Okay.
That's good. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Question.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. All right, let's open the public hearing portion for this agenda item. We have any testimony tonight, John?
No, we don't.
Okay, no testimony. So we need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public
Tim, a
hearing.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Esparza?
Yes?
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Timmons?
Yes.
Chair Weisenberger?
Yes. Okay, so now we need a motion then to adopt Planning Commission Resolution Number 25014 to establish revised regulations for the art in publicly accessible places on private property and in public places in the city of Paramount.
Timmons, so moved.
Gonzalez seconds.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sparza,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Timmons,
Yes.
Chair Weisenberger.
Yes. Okay. Agenda item number 4, oral reports, city council actions.
Yes, I have a few to review, and then in a moment, Ivan will bring up a slide to kind of help us out. So the two that you reviewed, I believe last month, that the council approved later in the month were, one was the zone change for the Colorado property that was we call it the firehouse. It wasn't actually a firehouse from the 50s. They seconded your recommendation to change the zone to allow for 4 homes. So that's going forward. The applicant is actually kind of rushing through. He already has plans, construction plans in plan check, and our plan checker already has a first round of comments for the developer to address. Secondly, you'll recall last month there was kind of a comprehensive zoning update. It just had kind of different types of changes to modernize the code and minor changes to bring us in compliance with our housing element. So with your recommendation, the city council did adopt an ordinance to push that through. So that was April 22nd. April 22nd is when it was the second reading. And so those rules take effect 30 days later, so they'll be in effect on May 22nd. The other thing, one more thing to talk about was the Clearwater specific plan, and of course that's the swap meet area and the surrounding areas. You had the joint meeting with the city council a few months ago. Was that February, I believe? Since that time, the city council asked for a few follow-up meetings to kind of clarify, to get to a consensus on the allowable density, and they finally did a couple weeks ago. So Ivan will pull up that little plan here, and I'll kind of walk you through it. And this is so honestly, this was consensus. 5 out of 5 went with this after some considerable discussion. I think add it all up, hours and hours. But so at the top, just to guide you through, the very top is Rosecrans Avenue. On the right is Paramount. The bottom is Somerset. And the left, the west side, is the rail corridor. So what they're okay with in the end is going to 90 homes per acre up to 6 stories along Rosecrans. And that would be closer to the future light rail station, Southeast Gateway line. That's, for now, is supposed to open more or less 10 years from now. So the highest density they are okay with was in that area. Keep in mind, this is a long-term plan, probably take many, many years to happen. I think we talked about call it the Jack in the Box shopping center. It's pretty well leased up. Most likely you're not gonna see any change there for a long time. You could see some change to the Union Hall, which has minimal activity. The Modern Development Company, which is, tied in with the Bianchi operations, probably not gonna redevelop the movie theater. So a small portion is what you'll likely see in the more upcoming years, sooner than later. And then kind of working our way through this, the property to the south off Paramount Boulevard, that's the vacant lot where you'll see carnivals from time to time and rodeos and that kind of thing. They're okay for that area going up to 65 homes per acre, also up to 6 stories. So it's a little less dense than that northern part. But what kind of how they came to that consensus was on the front, requiring a cap, a height limit of basically 3 stories in the front. So a 3-story, they call it like the wedding cake effect. You kind of step your way up as you get back. So they're okay, because they thought that the appearance would be a little lower density, but overall throughout, that's still 65 units per acre. Then I'm gonna jump down a similar area between the adult school, the Unified School District's, Paramount Unified School District's adult school, south of that, but north of the Our Lady of the Rosary Church. That's owned by this area is owned by the swap meet operators. So same thing, 65 homes per acre maximum at 6-story maximum. The light blue on the interior is what you remember was called a flex district, which could go either way, flexible to either go with housing, if it were to be housing, 40 homes per acre, or up to 4 stories, or to not go with housing at all, to go with more of a business type, very light manufacturing, or probably more likely like a food use, or an office building, that kind of thing. And this was an interesting compromise. To the north of that, this pink area is something that came about after our discussion, the joint meeting discussion, is what we're calling a combination zone, even more flexibility. So to go with either, it would allow the property owner to go with either that same 90 homes per acre to the north for housing, or to go with the flex district possibilities for businesses and not housing. So that's that main top part, and then the what's that greenish color? Quasi-public. So we don't foresee change in the immediate future because that's owned by the school district, and then to the south it's owned by the church. But there is the possibility on the books for 40 homes per acre up to 4 stories. And then the last would be on the south part, so including where the sheriff station is, the modern development owned parking lot on the south, the swap meet spillover parking lot, and the metal building that a lot of us call Brown Yard because it used to say Brown Yard in big letters on the side. So that would all be what's called neo-industrial, kind of a light, mid to light industrial possibility. No housing allowed in that southern portion. And that's it. That's a little summary, and it's kind of a lot. In the end, this will go back to the Planning Commission, most likely in the summer, and then back again to the City Council. But this is your City Council's direction for us. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes.
John, do we know how many property owners there are in this whole picture here?
We do. One tricky caveat is at the very south where the station is, those are industrial condos. So there are a number of property owners in there. That I wouldn't be able to tell you. Each one has its own property owner. But let's just call that one. That's just one obscure one.
Sure.
We'll kind of count these together. To the north of that is the church, so the Diocese of Los Angeles. Then the modern development, we could say modern development for most of the plan area. School district, that's 4.
So you say the one below that, where it says 65/6, that is the LLC development?
That is the Bianchi family, the modern development company.
Oh, yeah.
That is as well. Then you have Jack in the Box is its own property, kind of a carve out in the shopping center, so that's 5. 6 is the shopping center in general. 7 is the Union Hall, owned by the Union. That's still Bianchi. 8 would be the Brown Yard property. So 8, and then everybody else as part of the industrial condo.
So the Brown Yard is going to be industrial?
Would be, yes, neo-industrial. And they're actually looking for a tenant right now. Their tenant just moved out, or is close to moving out. I went by and saw a few things still there.
I have a question really on the modern. Looks like they all want like 6 stories then.
That combination. So you remember in the back, that allows up to 4 stories under the council's direction.
Right.
If they go for the housing option, and yes, 6 stories on the other areas.
Where is the 6-story in Paramount that I haven't seen?
The only one I get close is there's a 5-story, which is the self-storage facility off Minnesota. So you could look at that for some precedent. On Minnesota, south of Alondra, at 15932 Minnesota, I believe. So that's a 5-story, but
That's
yes,
a
it would be
5-story.
very different.
I thought that we were talking about with council, or they were kind of considering not going above 3 on the main boulevards, like on like they would want it to be consistent. I mean, I know that they have the decision
Mhm.
Right.
ability.
They had, you're right, they had a little bit of that discussion. I think they moved back with the consideration that the housing would be mostly to the north and closest to the future station. They thought that, this is my read on it, that it would make more sense to have more density toward the north, closer to folks who would actually use the station. You have the, what is it, like kind of like a catalyst, or the number of folks would make more sense to actually use a future train line.
So that they would have access.
They would have more direct access to it.
So are we talking about, when we're saying housing, we're talking about individual residential properties? We're talking about multi-unit properties?
It could be,
Meaning like,
it could be both. Well, there's more likely to be multifamily, either owners, but it could be ownership condos or rentals. We don't. What's not in the plan at this point is a minimum. So some cities will say you have to have at least, say, 30 units per acre. We're not doing that. So the property owner could, if they wanted to, could develop at a lower scale. You know, like a typical 11 homes per acre that you might see for a single family. But you know, at some point, it makes more financial sense to be a little denser. Some of these caps, so we're hearing different things. Economically, if you get a little dense or a little high, then the construction costs go up, and it's not worth it. You have to have steel frame. You know, you might have to. There's a parking budget. You have to build a garage and have open space, and yeah. So then they might not be at that highest level.
John, do you know if they went as far as a parking consideration and how much room between the rail and the homes, the setbacks, or they're not that far yet?
Well, there was discussion about that, in fact. So the city council does want a 15-foot setback along Paramount Boulevard, along the boulevards. So they are requiring 15 feet. The initial concept was closer. Well, put it this way: the property owner was asking for more to minimize it down, to get it down to almost zero lot line. The city council was not willing to do that. They wanted to keep at least that 15 feet. Also, in terms of parking, the major landowner wanted far less parking. I think they wanted to go down to one parking space per home, but the city council was steadfast. They stuck with two parking spaces per home.
our city council is so smart. Those ladies are smart. Because if they said 15 feet on Rosecrans and Paramount Boulevard, a regression of 15 feet, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, that makes sense because they could make it look nice instead of it looking like just a big brick building or something. That would look really nice if they decorated it.
That was the thought. Maybe have some landscaping in the front, so it's not right, and then maybe livability. You don't have a bedroom window right up to a busy street. You push it back a little bit, maybe a little bit less noise, maybe a little bit farther away from other issues.
So does this plan get us closer to the 2,000 units, allow for the whole project, or is it with the number of stories and the density? I mean, does that give us the city more opportunity, or these owners the opportunity to reach the 2,000 cap?
They could, but there's just so many variables. You know, interest rates, construction costs, labor costs. But what they do have is land, so they do have that. And if they do want to partner with an outside developer, they have something to offer. But there's just so many variables. But all in all, it's, if you're asking about tomorrow, no, I don't. You know, or next year, probably not. But if you're asking about a few decades, like 2040, yeah, I could see that. In my opinion.
You might go.
We got a lot of years. It's going to change. So
right.
it will
Right.
change, I guarantee you.
Beyond our times, probably, most likely.
It will change. I said our ladies are smart, but our planning department is smart.
But it's
Oh, we follow your lead. We definitely we do follow your lead.
But it looks nice.
Like Modern go for that 15. How did he react on that?
Oh, they weren't exactly thrilled.
Right.
There was another discussion. Well, maybe just briefly continue on that. They wanted on the backside along the rail corridor.
Right.
They wanted to build down to 20 feet from the property line, but the city council wanted, was it 50 they wanted to go with? They ended up with about 50 feet from the property line and not 20.
Or 35.
35?
Really.
You want to take land away from it.
Does it, John, does the property line, how close does that come to the railroad tracks? Would you know?
The property line, it actually varies. The property line, you can kind of see it here. See this green?
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of green there. That supposed to represent a setback or maybe a little bike route in the future. That would be way in the future. But you can kind of see how the green kind of goes away, this part here.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the property line shifts. So it's not a continuous property line. We don't really know the history. This came about many, many years before even Paramount was a city. But so I don't have a singular answer, unfortunately, for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference.
So technically 20 feet, but that could be really close to the tracks then. Could be 20 feet from the tracks maybe.
That could have been, but there is kind of an incentive. If there's no housing on the first floor, then that would allow the development to be closer to the property line. If there's housing on the first floor, then it would have to have more of that buffer space.
Oh, okay. And that is some type of ordinance?
That would be part of the ordinance that you would be reviewing probably in this summer coming up.
So the property where, excuse me, the property where Jack in the Box and all those are there, the donut shop. Who owns that property? Did you say?
Ooh, well, I
They're
can't
a
remember the name
mix?
off the top of my head. I know the property manager is Ted Kwan, I believe. It's a corporate name. It's not a specific person that we know of.
Except for Jack in the Box, they own their own.
They own,
property.
yes, his own little carve out there.
Yeah.
Or,
One question. Is there any reason why in the blue section that there was no consideration at all for residential properties?
Yes, through the last year and a half, when we've been developing this plan, we took it to a couple forms of comments. One was from the Public Safety Commission. We presented it to them. It's probably about a year ago, or maybe a little more. They gave the comment that it seemed a little to be so close to the sheriff's station. They thought that might be an issue, and that was echoed by. We had an interdepartmental meeting. Different departments in the public safety department did express reservations about having housing so close to the sheriff's station for, I guess, security reasons. Thank you.
Okay, let's move to agenda item number 5, comments. Our city attorney's been kind of quiet tonight. Any comments?
No comments from me tonight.
Okay,
It's nice to be here.
thank you. Thank you for being here. How about from our commissioners? Any comments tonight? Okay. Anything from our staff?
Thinking. No comments from staff. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, we will adjourn our meeting for tonight and reconvene on Wednesday, June 4th.
okay, the Paramount Development Review Board of May 7th is called to order. Roll call members, please.
Board Member Gonzalez.
Here.
Board Member Timmons.
Here.
Board Member Weisenberger.
Here.
Vice Chair Esparza.
Here.
Chair Moody.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, David Moody, make a,
Okay, I will, you made the motion?
yes.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Board Member Gonzalez.
Yes.
Board Member Timmons.
Yes.
Board Member Weisenberger.
Yes.
Vice Chair Esparza.
Yes. Okay. Item 1 is the approval of minutes of April 2nd, 2025.
Timmons, so moved.
Get a motion.
Gonzalez second.
Board Member Gonzalez.
Yes.
Board Member Timmons.
Yes.
Board Member Weisenberger. Vice Chair Esparza.
Yes. Okay, any public comments?
No public comments.
Public hearings, new business. Okay, this is item number 2. It'll be the development review application number 25004. And that's a request by Robert, Habitat for Humanity. Greater Los Angeles to repeal development review application number 24008 and approve the construction of a 1,353 square foot, two-story, single-family residence with an attached two-story garage, car garage, and an 867 square foot, single-level residence with an attached two-car garage at 16305 Hunsinger Avenue in the Plan Development and Performance Standard Zone. Do you have staff report on that?
Yes. So this project is going to look familiar. In late last year, I believe November 2024, you reviewed the previous application noted already, development review application number 24008, and you approved that. That was an application for two homes, side by side or front to back of equal size, on a property that is a really great project. It was a city-owned property for some time, and then the city sold it to a nonprofit housing developer, Habitat for Humanity, and it went. So upon your approval, it went through the plan check process, the formal process, or review, looking at kind of the nuts and bolts of the design, and it came up that because it was a publicly funded project, because the city more or less donated the land, provided the land for the project, and because it was given to a nonprofit housing developer, there's what it comes down to, it is a code section that requires at least one of the homes to be accessible, meaning like wheelchair accessible, ADA accessible, Americans with Disability Act. We realized that it wouldn't be feasible to meet the requirements of installing an elevator. Actually, the developer would have had to install an elevator in one of the homes. So to install it, so the cost of that, and you can imagine the ongoing maintenance of, you just own a home and you have an elevator and you have to keep it up to date, seemed a little too much. So the applicant is back with a revised application, switching out one of the homes to a one-story. So it still has to meet that requirement for accessibility, but no longer will need that elevator. So that's kind of the gist of it. And with that, Assistant Planner Leslie Corrales will be giving the presentation.
Thank you, John. Good evening, members of the board. Today, I'll be going over development review application number 25004. And this is a request to repeal development review application 24008, like John mentioned, the one we heard last year, and construct a 1,353 square foot, two-story single-family residence, Unit A, with an attached two-car garage, and also construct an 867 square foot single-level residence, Unit B, with an attached two-car garage as well. The address is 16305 Hunsacker Avenue. The zone is PDPS, Plan Development with Performance Standards, and the site size is 7,840 square feet. And just to provide some background, DRA 24008 from last year was proposed by the same applicant, Habitat for Humanity, and this is for the same property, but a different project plan. I will go more into detail throughout the presentation, but I have included a summary of what they stand for and just some examples of the organization's work. We have one from Culver City. We have some from the regional cities such as Downey, Linwood. And one of the reasons we chose this applicant is because of their proximity to Paramount and having a strong reputation for being dependable partners and consistently delivering quality homes at an affordable rate. Here is just a provided timeline of the project since it was first acquired back in 2019. Currently in 2025, we are revisiting the project due to a change on the scope of work being revised, and some future items that we anticipate related to this item will be a tentative parcel map dividing the property into two parcels, and the Planning Commission will review this request at an upcoming meeting as well. So just some discussion on what's being provided is Unit A, which is the two-story unit, will have 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. And Unit B, which is the single-level unit, will have 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. Each will have an attached 20 by 20 minimum 2-car garage, so it has to fit at least 2 cars. And the site development will accommodate a total of 6 parking spaces And the site also will have space for two more parking spaces as well. Here is the aerial view. As you can see, it is in a residential neighborhood on Hunsaker with the Home Depot lot in the back. Primarily residential, so we're hoping that this development brings additional character to the area as well. And here is the provided site plan. The property line is outlined in red. Unit A is the street-facing unit and will be 2 stories. And Unit B, the blue one that you see in the back, is the rear unit that will be single level. As you can see, there is a private shared driveway. Each will have a guest parking spot. Usually we require underground utilities, just something to point out. But however, there is an exception for the rear unit, Unit B, whereas the electrical utility will be permissible through an overhead wire that will run a short distance from the neighboring property. And here is the proposed floor plan for both homes. As mentioned before, Unit A is 2 stories, and the first floor will consist of a kitchen, family room, and bathroom. The second floor of Unit A will consist of all 3 bedrooms, laundry room, and 2 bathrooms. Unit B is the rear and the single-story unit, and will consist of 2 bedrooms, a family room, a kitchen, and 1 bathroom as well. Here is a rendering of what the development would look like from all sides. We have the street view on the top right corner of the PowerPoint. Additionally, you'll see that it is decorated with siding, stacked stone, wood band board, and upgraded roofing material. Here's what the property currently looks like as there is no construction. To the left is a view of the street view, what you can see from Hunsaker, and on the right depicts the picture showing what the vacant lot looks like. And the applicant is proposing a number of architectural elements for the project, including decorative trim around the windows, landscaping with drought-tolerant plants, lifetime asphalt roofing shingle material, and typically we do require a minimum of 30-year shingles, but which under normal conditions last 30 years. However, for these projects, we require lifetime premium shingles, which usually has around a 50-year warranty, which provides a more resistant and longer-lasting material. Additionally, all rooftop vents painted to match roofing material, wall-mounted light fixtures installed at each entrance for safety, and block walls along the side and rear property lines. And our analysis is that the project meets substantial residential city design requirements, and it's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. And our recommended action is to repeal development review application number 24008 and approve development review application 25004 with a revised condition allowing an exception for the single-story rear unit where electrical utilities may be provided through an overhead wire. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Got any questions? Anybody? No, everybody. Okay, we open the public hearing and hear testimony in the following order. Those in favor? Those opposed? Rebuttal by the applicant. Got a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close.
I'll second.
Board Member Gonzalez?
Yes.
Board Member Timmons?
Yes.
Board Member Weisenberger?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sparza?
Yes. And now we'll have a motion in order to approve a request by Robert Well, Habitat for Humanity of Greater Los Angeles to repeal development review application number 24008 and approve the construction of a 1,353 square foot, 2-story, single-family residence with an attached 2-car garage and an 867 square foot, single-level residence with an attached 2-car garage at 16305 Hunsaker Avenue in the planned development with performance standard zone.
Gonzalez moves to repeal and approve.
I'll second. Weisenberger?
Board Member Gonzalez?
Yes.
Board Member Timmons?
Yes.
Board Member Weisenberger?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sparza?
Yes. Okay. So item 3, any comments from board members?
I would just add that for this exciting project, Habitat for Humanity is known for their groundbreakings. They call it, I think they call it a wall raising. They raise a wall, and it's a really nice production. So of course, you'll be invited to that. So
Right.
we'll let you know when that's getting scheduled.
Great.
That's all I have.
All right. Okay. So the Paramount Development Review Board is adjourned till Wednesday, June 4th at 6 p.m.
So we'll open the Economic Development Board. Can we have roll call, please?
Board Member Esparza,
Yes.
Board Member Gonzalez,
Here.
Board Member Moody, Vice Chair Weisenberger,
Here.
and Chair Timmons.
May I have an approval to excuse Commissioner?
I'm sorry,
Moody?
Chair, we need a motion to excuse.
I'm sorry.
Gonzalez moves to excuse board member Moody.
I will-
Second.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thought you were
That's
gonna
okay.
mute it. All right,
Roll call, please.
Board Member Esparza,
Yes.
Board Member Gonzalez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Weisenberger.
Yes.
And Chair Timmons.
Yes. Here. Yes. Okay, approval of minutes, please. I need a motion to approve the minutes of April 2nd, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Board Member Esparza,
Yes.
Board Member Gonzalez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Weisenberger,
Yes.
Chair Timmons.
Yes. Okay, do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
And under new business, we have an oral report on the public art master plan.
That's right. So this is kind of the main event here. This is I just kind of repeat that this is the city's first public art master plan. So this is a big deal. There's no real template for this. You just gotta do it. And management analyst Solbet Hirano, she stepped up and really she's doing a wonderful job. So we're just getting so much closer to the finish line. Just a review for you. I mean, you kind of got a taste of it already. And then the city council on May 22nd. May 22nd will make it official.
27th.
22nd?
27th. I think.
27th. May 27th. The city council will make it official. So, Ms. Bejarano, go ahead and give your presentation.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Chair Timmons and board members. You're getting a first sneak peek at the completed public art master plan. So earlier this evening, the Planning Commission reviewed and approved zoning ordinance text amendment number 35, which corresponds with the art in public places as a result of the recommendations found in the city's first ever public art master plan, as John King mentioned. The plan will be presented to the City Council later this month. And as mentioned earlier, we wanted to provide you with a preview of what they'll be reviewing. This was a plan prepared by Gail M. Goldman Associates, along with Michelle Montjoy and assistance from the Latinas Art Foundation. So community engagement and public participation is a huge component of developing such a plan. Artist Michelle Montjoy, with the assistance from the Latinas Art Foundation, led the community outreach efforts using large handcrafted looms, as you can see in the picture on the lower left-hand side, and locally sourced used T-shirts that were cut into strips, inviting all members of the public to participate and start a conversation. Each participant was able to choose a color, and each color of the T-shirt, or the strips of T-shirts, represented a certain theme or focus. And the completed art piece, which you can see on the right-hand side, is titled Knit Around Hands and Voices of Paramount, and it's currently on display here in the lobby in City Hall. And it basically is a color representation of what the community would like to see in Paramount. The top picture, which is our loteria cards, which are handed out to those participants that participated during the engagement process. They were handmade by elementary students from Paramount and guided with the assistance from the Latinas Art Foundation as well. All in all, we had 427 responses through various means that included in-person interviews, focus groups, and online surveys. So the following are a list of the recurring themes and recommendations derived from the community engagement and public participation process. So for starters, cultural identity and civic pride comes with the recommendation to commission art that authentically reflects Paramount's diverse histories, cultural heritage, demographics, and interests. Public education comes with the recommendation to implement a comprehensive program of ongoing public education and outreach designed to introduce all sectors of Paramount to public art. Continuing with the recurring themes and recommendations, for local artists, the recommendation is to nurture and support local artists to build Paramount's public art ecosystem. Administration and collection management comes with a recommendation to establish a process that creates exceptional public art and inspires support for and trust in the public art program. The funding and strategies theme comes with the recommendation to identify sustainable funding sources and systems for supporting and maintaining the public art program. The vision of the plan is that all Paramount residents and visitors experience public art as part of their daily lives and throughout all neighborhoods, celebrating the city's history, people, natural environment, and culture. Similarly, the following is a list of goals inspired by the responses during the community engagement and public participation process. First is to express Paramount's identity and celebrate its cultural diversity through public art. Provide diverse, engaging, and sustainable public art throughout Paramount. Build on Paramount's prestige as a city of innovation. Commission community-focused art in publicly accessible places. Connect and build the artist community in Paramount. Provide ongoing financial and administrative support for public art. To maintain and expand the city's collection of public art. And lastly, to encourage collaboration in the public and private sectors to create vibrant public spaces. The most notable recommendation in the plan is that the Public Art Advisory Committee will replace the Development Review Board's role of reviewing and providing proposed projects, in reviewing and approving proposed projects on private development, and will also have an expanded role in reviewing and approving proposed projects on public right-of-way and/or city-owned property. The composition of the Public Art Advisory Committee reflects best practices in that both key stakeholders with knowledge and involvement in the community, along with professional artists, will base their recommendation on their subject matter expertise and approved policies and guidelines that will be reviewed and adopted by the Public Art Advisory Committee. The Public Art Advisory Committee will have the flexibility of selecting art professionals based on relevant experience correlating to the proposed project being reviewed. The Public Art Advisory Committee will make their recommendation to the City Council, and the City Council will then make the final decision to approve or deny the project. The Public Art Advisory Committee will be comprised of 5 and up to 7 voting members, of which 2 will be City Council members, a minimum of 2 arts professionals. This could include artists and/or landscape architects, etc., and a minimum of 1 community stakeholder. The mayor will be responsible for the appointments to the Public Art Committee, and they will be approved by the City Council. As presented earlier this evening to the Planning Commission, in summary, the proposed ordinance reflects best practices by adding relevant definitions for consistency, revising the in lieu fee structure to include combining artwork and in lieu fee while maintaining the 1% cap, referencing public art policies and guidelines that will be the responsibility of the Public Art Advisory Committee to review and accept and be implemented by the appropriate program art staff, and establishing the Public Art Advisory Committee and the City Council role and responsibilities. Just for reference, the policies and guidelines will be revised from time to time to reflect best practices for public art. And now the good stuff. This is just highlighting a few of the suggested projects. Under cultural identity and civic pride, for example, we can have suggested projects include sharing stories, such as working with the local high school to have students conduct interviews with longtime neighborhood residents, then commissioning artists to translate the stories into interactive artwork that integrates the spoken word. This is also an opportunity to partner with the Paramount Library's Guided Autobiography for Older Adults program. And with Paramount's long history of innovation and its rich history of dairy farming and hay markets, it provides opportunities to use public art to highlight the city's industrial past and present. Focusing on industry, for example, can include additional projects celebrating the Zamboni ice resurfacing machine, referencing Iceland and Paramount's position as a premier destination for Olympic athletes. And under local artists, the suggested projects include an artist directory with access given to artists. The intent here is to provide a sense of ownership where each artist will be responsible for updating their own autobiography and or current projects found within the city limits. And under public education, and this is where Chair Timmons' comment came in earlier during the Planning Commission about for example, a suggested project here is a community murals. So for neighborhood engagement projects. And what happens here is creating art that is inclusive and relevant to specific neighborhoods can begin with artist-led community murals focusing on identifying history, culture, and spaces that neighborhoods value as locations for public art. These projects can follow two steps. One is important to engage the community, get their feedback, their input, what's important to them, what's relevant to that neighborhood and where they'd like to see the art placed. And then second would be to select an artist or artist team to create a project that responds to that scope of work or that feedback collected from the neighborhood. And those are just a few of the suggested projects that I've highlighted here. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. It's a great report. Great. Love the pictures. Okay, commissioners, any questions?
I do have one question.
Yes.
On the advisory board, I do have one question on what is meant by the community stakeholder?
The community stakeholder could be a resident, a business owner in Paramount, someone with roots in the community. You're welcome.
One other question.
Yes.
You said the knit around, that's in the lobby here now?
That's in the lobby, breezeway between this section of the building and the latter section of the end. So where the stairway is going up to finance, you'll see it there. We are currently planning on relocating it over to the senior center or the community center.
So once we establish this, will we be moving certain artifacts around in the city, like different locations? where we know the public frequents?
The intent is for this particular art piece, the knit around, to rotate throughout the city in different locations. Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're down to comments, number 3. Do we have any comments from the board? Staff?
We have, well, maybe one economic development sort of is the grand opening of It's Boba Time or Boba Shop. I believe it's May 22nd. If anyone wants to attend the ribbon cutting.
Oh, excellent. You don't want to miss that, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
Okay. Well, if we have no further comments, we will adjourn this meeting to Wednesday, June 4th of 2025 at 6 p.m. Thank you.